Okay, we are live. Thank you to everyone who's joining in. We're now live. Welcome to everyone on the first session of the year 2025. I'm glad to be back, glad to be presenting again on disruptive technologies. So I'm going to ask everyone if they could, if you're not already subscribed, if you do not like or comment on the last video, if you could please subscribe so that I grow the channel and I get more people to come on and I get more views and we grow the series. So today we're going to have this interesting session with someone that some people already know. I'm going to give him the opportunity to introduce himself. Today we're going to talk about blockchain technologies. So when we talk about digital development, digital everything, digital that, there's a lot of stuff that we keep hearing, but one of them is blockchain and AI. And when we say AI, for those who don't know, that means artificial intelligence. These are one of the trending and exciting technologies that we're talking about now and that we're working on now. So, not to delay, I'm going to let McDonald introduce himself. So we already know he's McDonald. And now over to you, McDonald. You can proceed to introduce yourself.
All right. Hello.
Hello, I can hear you. So we're having a bit of a challenge, a network challenge today with
All right.
TNM and Airtel. Both of them are kind of funny. So he's gonna introduce himself now. Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
If anyone is having some challenges, you can't hear anything or you can't see anything, please leave a comment so I know how to go about it. Okay, so it seems he's been kicked off. So now it's just me. He's gonna rejoin. Um, in the meantime, I'm gonna put in some links in the chat on blockchain technologies that are currently being used in other countries. Okay, he is back. Let me add him back.
Yes.
We lost you.
Yeah. Apologies. Our connection today is really bad, but let's hope we'll survive
Yes.
uh, the wind. So yeah, my name is McDonald. I was mentioning that I am excited to be here to talk to you, fellas, in this quite interesting. So I come from a space of um, digital technologies for quite some time within the organization since. Yes, can you hear me now? Hi, Felice, can you hear me?
Also hear me? Yes, I can hear you. Yeah, we can hear you. You can
Yes.
proceed.
Yeah, I don't know whether it's the connection of because the video is on or anything. But anyway, so yes, I come from the organization, but also the digital space, and I
Yeah.
have been doing a lot of work in that space. I have also done some work specifically in the tech in the university, and that yeah, built the passion in me to space. So yeah, I come from the space, but maybe more because of the technology could be discussed later. Maybe questions that could come through at a later stage. I'm happy to start the presentation now, but that's all from me. Fellas, should I go in the presentation now? Help me add the presentation so I can share
Yes, you
it.
can start the presentation. You can start the presentation. Yeah.
All right.
Yes, you can bring it up.
Help. Okay. Bring up the presentation so I can start. Or let me know if you're able to see the screen. Now I see that Felix is not on this stream, so I'm not sure how I can know whether people are able to see the stream. Um,
Can you guys hear me?
can people see the screen? Yes, I can hear you. Can you see my screen here?
Oh my goodness. Yes, okay. Let me add your presentation. Can you
Okay.
see it on the screen?
Not now. I can't see it yet. Yes, it's in now.
Can you see it now? Okay. Yes.
Yes. All right. So today we'll talk about the subject of AI, but also blockchain. And we'll talk it from the perspective of what I've coined as from poverty to prosperity, empowering emerging markets with AI and blockchain. So I want to make a disclaimer here that our discussion today would not be technical, but will be on the use cases specifically, how AI and blockchain can be used specifically in development, but also how these two technologies can be used in the private sector. And then we'll look into the opportunities that specifically Malawi and other emerging markets in Africa can leverage specifically on how to use these technologies. So we'll not go deeper into how these things are coded and how these things are differentiated at the technical level so that we can benefit a lot of people. And I always find it difficult to be in presentations where people are just too technical. I think we owe each other time that is easy, specifically information that is easy to consume, specifically in these webinars. So I'll not dwell into any technical. I'll just focus on basically the use cases and so forth. But because the subject matter is a bit technical, you will still find some technical terms that you might still have to check your dictionary, or maybe just Google, or maybe just ChatGPT. So the first thing I wanted us to explore on understanding what AI and blockchain is all about. So for the sake of this presentation, I have coined artificial intelligence as the simulation of human intelligence processes by machines, especially computer systems, which will enable tasks such as learning, reasoning, and self-correction. And there's an example there to help us to comprehend that definition. So there's a company called JLL. It's a global real estate service firm, and it developed its own JLL GPT, which is an AI model tailored to for commercial real estate. And this reduced, of course, partnership agreement processes from like 2 months to under 5 hours. And I think this is what we know mostly, specifically for people that are working with AI now. And working with AI in this context is exploring AI using maybe ChatGPT, maybe using Notebook LLM, maybe using any of these models that are coming in. So if you have ever used these models, you know that it simplifies your work. So for instance, if you were taking a lot of time to draft some thoughts, you can do them quickly. If you would take an hour to draft some thoughts, now you can draft them quickly. And even for people that use AI for videos, or use AI for to generate audio, now it's taking us a bit of less time than the normal time that we could take if we were not using AI. And then specifically, that's the use case. That is an example here. And blockchain, on the other hand, and for the sake of this presentation, is a decentralized distributed ledger technology. And ledger, of course, now comes from the finance space, where we record things. Now, this is a decentralized, where decentralized means that it's not centralized. It's not in the way that we do, for instance, when it comes to finance. Finance is centralized. We have in Malawi, for instance, the Reserve Bank, and then we have the banks. So that process is centralized. Now, when you talk of decentralized, it means that that process it has been scattered somehow, has been given to people or some particular sections to manage that on their own, of course, while they liaise with the central section, depending on the extent. Now, in this context, blockchain is a decentralized distributed ledger technology that records transactions across multiple computers, ensuring security, transparency, and immutability. So what is security? Security is safety. As of now, you depend on a central platform, for instance, when you are transacting online with a bank. But in this context, we're talking about reading or writing the same transaction, but in multiple computers that are existing within the chain. That's how easy I could go on this one. Transparency would be that everyone would see it, which is different from maybe when you're working with a corporation, which is a centralized system. So in this one, because it's on chain, everyone could be able to see it. It's transparent. And immutability is about changing. So in a central place, it means that some specific people in a centralized environment, they can change the transaction or change something. But in this context, it means that when it's written, it requires a lot of protocols, and it requires the whole chain probably to give consent to that kind of change. So that gives you certainty that you're safe with either your transaction or you're safe with your information. So that's blockchain in the easiest definition that I could be able to offer in this context. But anyway, there's an example that can help us. So Mantra, which is a blockchain platform, partnered with a Dubai developer, Damak Group, to tokenize 1 billion worth of Middle Eastern assets, enhancing transparency in the process and efficiency in real estate transaction. Now, tokenization is a term as well. So it's a term that is used in Web 2, which is the web that we are interfacing with right now, which is centralized platforms like Google, where they have YouTube and so forth, which they own. But you also have tokenization, specifically in the space of blockchain, where you look at now tokenizing assets. I don't want to go there. It's a bit of a I had not to crack in the first instance, so I'll leave it there and we can proceed. Now, I want to share the milestones in artificial intelligence, and of course, I'll do the same for blockchain because it's quite helpful for us. For me, I regard this as an intro series to this kind of discussion. So maybe let's start with this. In the 1950s, Alan Turing, who is considered as a father to an extent of AI, introduced the concept of a machine that can simulate human intelligence, which laid the foundation of AI. Now, at the time, it's basically looking at machines, building computers, and then thinking, okay, fine, what else can computer do apart from just maybe inputting data and maybe processing data? Can a machine learn our traits as human beings and be able to do some of those actions? And later in the 1956, the term artificial intelligence was coined at the Dartmouth Conference, which marked the birth of AI now as a field. Now, this conference, with a couple of presentations and people exploring in this space, this term artificial intelligence now was born. And then later on in the 1980s, we have John Hopfield and Geoffrey Hinton, who developed the neural networks, which enabled machines to learn from data. And later on in 2010, that's when we had the advancements in deep learning, which led in the breakthroughs of like reading images, but also even speech recognition, right? Because it came in around the 2010s when we started seeing that kind of technology and leveraging AI in the back. Can you hear me? I got disconnected.
Yes, I can hear you. You can proceed. Yeah.
Perfect. So yes, later on in 2020, that's when we now get to AI becoming a big buzzword because of generative AI, which has helped now specifically in learning from data and be able to support in activities specifically around decision making and automation, which is what we'll discuss later on. And similarly, when in the context of blockchain, we have the first instance, the first footprint of something that looks like blockchain is 1991, when Stuart Harper and W. Scott Sconeta proposed a cryptographic secure chain of blocks, which is a precursor to blockchain. And this was what people were discussing specifically around cryptography in compute. And then later in 2008, an individual, depending on how you believe this subject matter, whether it's an individual or it's a group who uses the pseudonym Satoshi Nakamoto, published a Bitcoin white paper. So it's still not yet known. You go in a rabbit hole trying to check who is Satoshi Nakamoto. Nobody knows. So because people have different thoughts. People still think the first guys in 1991, they are the ones that they discussed themselves to be Satoshi Nakamoto. And I don't know why they chose a Japanese name. But yeah, they published a Bitcoin white paper, which introduced the blockchain as an underlying technology. And now later in 2009, it moved a bit quickly. Now Bitcoin, the first cryptocurrency, was launched, and it utilized the blockchain for decentralized transactions. Now this was a new phenomenon, right? And it was crude at that particular time until 2015, when we had now other companies like Ethereum, which was born built on an Ethereum network, which now enables smart contracts, which is a very important term we'll talk about later on, and the number of other decentralized applications, like the decentralized autonomous organizations, which is essentially just a grouping of people agreeing on terms and creating a system or be on the chain, which is within the blockchain, and be able to discuss and make decisions of different activities. And later in 2020, in the late 2020s, which is where we are now, blockchain technology has expanded beyond cryptocurrencies, because earlier on it's just about transactions. Now it has gone beyond, and now we're talking about supply chain, healthcare, and finance, which we'll talk about in the subsequent slides. Now, the features of AI and blockchain are quite important for us to think about. So how do you know, or like how would you tell that these are the features of these technologies? The first one is data-driven decision making, right? Because AI analyzes data, large data sets, to inform decisions. And that's what has been used in different scenarios. And the example that I'll give here, I'll give one example from outside the country, but also one which is local. The first one is Baker Hughes, who utilizes AI for predictive analytics in oil and gas operations, where they enhance decision-making in equipment maintenance and production optimization. These are heavy terms to an extent, but just to simplify it, what happens here is that they use artificial intelligence, or they train the machine based on a particular set of data, and that helps them to make predictions on when they have to do maintenance of their equipment. And then, of course, it helps them to optimize production, which is help production to be better. And an easy example, if some of us who are here are coming from Malawi, is what UNDP is doing with the Ministry of Tourism, where it is exploring the use of artificial intelligence in tourism. So what is happening in a project like this one is that data is being scrapped, is being collected, because for you to work with artificial intelligence, you need to have data. So data is being scrapped from booking.com, which is a website which people can book, and you leave your comments and data there. Airbnb, which most of people are using right now, but also TripAdvisor. So data has been scrapped off these platforms, and there's an algorithm that is learning from that data and make predictions, but also make recommendations and make a bit of a lot of analysis. And there's a source here that you can refer to, of course, not for the UNDP Ministry of Tourism one, but for the Berka Hughes situation. But this is another use case that you could see. But I'll also share other use cases from Malawi later on. There's automation. There's a lot of automation that is happening in the space. But automation is what is becoming a big thing right now. I don't know if you have ever heard about, and maybe we can talk about that later on, the concept of AI agents, which is essentially a code that you can train to do some tasks for you. So that is coming in to essentially support a lot of automation of processes. And these could be planning, decision making, and maybe even just evaluation. So sometimes people ask a lot of questions around the practical elements. Some of these things work specifically in the working environment, other than maybe when we're talking about projects that maybe you want to physically experience. And then, of course, predictive analytics, which is what NVIDIA is doing right now. So I'll move a bit quickly because we've been delayed somehow by the technology. Now, distinctive features for AI, now in this context, blockchain. For you to know that this is blockchain, you have to talk about decentralization. And I spoke about this difference, the centralization element and the decentralized element. Because centralization is when a corporation owns your data, while decentralization is when you own your data. So if you're using a platform right now, whether YouTube or maybe even StreamYard, our data is being held by the platform, and we are using that platform. Well, in decentralization, that data is not owned or held by the platform. Of course, it could be held for the sake of the process of the technology at that particular time, but is not owned in any way. So you own your data. You are in control of that. And there's an example of Open Bazaar, which is a decentralized marketplace where goods and services are traded without intermediaries. And this is happening. There's so many marketplaces online where you can go and trade without going through a middleman. And of course, this is happening on chain. Unlike when you go via Alibaba, which is a centralized platform, or you go via Amazon, which is a centralized platform, and Open Bazaar is a different ballgame in that space. And then transparency and immutability. I spoke about transparency. Transparency is when now everything can be seen within the blockchain. The advantages and disadvantages of transparency, and we all know that, because sometimes people are not so patient. When they see some information, they want to act on them, but maybe some things need to take a bit of time. So, but yeah, this technology offers you transparency and immutability. An example here is Cardano's blockchain, of course, which was used by New Balance. Cardano is one of big platforms that are working in the space. And they did a pilot program to authenticate the origins of their product, ensuring that there's transparency, but also immutability. And we'll talk about that in a bunch of examples that I'll share, specifically on supply chain, how blockchain is used to check how that product has been used or has been moved from the source to when you are interfacing with that product, and what happens in between, and that can be recorded on chain. And that's why people love blockchain, because of that. But also immutability, that things cannot be changed. If it was recorded like this from the source, it means it has to maintain that kind of quality. The kind of expectation has to be there up to the very end. So yeah, there are a lot of examples around that space, but also enhanced security. When everyone's talking about blockchain, they talk about security, like we'll be secure through the chain. But of course, some other people is like, but people are still stealing money through blockchain. What is happening? But you see that blockchain-based applications can eliminate the risk of fraud a lot, while speeding reimbursement, for instance, for losses in the insurance industry. And you could do so much in terms of transferring money from one point to another point. For instance, in the humanitarian situation, where money can be sent to an organization, and sometimes within the organization you could have a lot of processes and things delay. So for that money to reach the actual person, there's so much that has been lost here, but also the delays, and sometimes even corruption happens along the way. So blockchain solves those kind of problems by making sure that there's specifically when there's an end-to-end kind of point of contact where you can send a coin from this end and you can push it to the beneficiary. Now, a few stats here that you can appreciate in terms of the growth of these technologies and why we need to pay attention to this technology. To my left here, which could be your right to an extent, but yeah, we'll look at AI market growth from 2022, which the projection of what will be in 2032. You see that by 2022, AI was around 454.12 billion in terms of the market cap that it captures. And later on, there's a projection that it will go to up to 2 trillion by 2032. And this means that we need to spend a lot of time thinking about AI. How can we take advantage of AI? Because there's a lot of money being invested in this space. And if you work in the space where you look at markets and you make decisions, these are the indicators of you making a decision. And if you see the line keeps on going up in this manner, and blockchain hasn't been doing well in terms of numbers, but is still rising. And in terms of the projections, by 2023, the market cap was 17 billion, and it is expected to be around 825 billion by 2032. So there's a lot happening in this space. And sometimes when we are in Africa, Malawi specifically, we somehow don't see these things. And when the time that we are going to explore this has been taken over already by people, and people have already made money. It's like during the .com boom, when internet was becoming a big thing and people learned about uploading music and selling things online and so forth. In Africa, people were just doing things business as normal. And the moment that we're now starting to say, okay, fine, I could put my music online, I could put my products online, okay, I could use online platforms to sell. People have already made businesses. Amazon is already a big thing. Spotify is already a big thing. You come in the space that has already been conquered. But now is the time for us to conquer these markets in AI, but also blockchain. And the opportunity can be seen here through these graphs, that you are seeing that there's a lot of activity happening and a lot of projection in terms of how these technologies will impact the market. Now, there are a number of global applications on blockchain. So you have blockchain being used in supply chain management, to to enhance transparency and traceability of goods. And I'll give you this example, is interesting. So Walmart utilizes blockchain technology to track the journey of its produce from farm to store shelves. So in scanning a product, customers can access detailed information about its origin, one, the processing, and the transportation to ensure food safety and authenticity. In this time where trust is a big issue, a blockchain provides a solution because you see what has happened to the product, and there's a process that we could discuss of how it happens. But Walmart, which is a global retail platform, uses blockchain just to explore that kind of possibility of the actual source to the shelf for you to buy and see what has happened to the product. And yeah, there's so many examples. There's financial services where blockchain could be used to facilitate cross-border payments and smart contracts, right? So I've said that you could move money from one point to another point, and it's possible on chain when everyone is within that chain, and I think it's possible as well to move across different platforms. And in healthcare, blockchain can be used to secure patient records and streamline data sharing. I'll give this example because I know I have a friend who is working on this problem. So he has a partner in Nigeria, and they're working to explore this problem. Come to think about it. When you were young, and if you come from Africa, you would have this birth certificate, and then you have this passport book, health passport book that you have to use when you're young. So when you're maybe just months, you're using this other passport book. After it's done, because doctors have written all over it, it means that you buy another one and you keep on buying. And then you grow up. If someone wants to understand your history to help you better, how can they go back to understand what happened during birth? How can they go back and understand what happened to you when you were 2, when you were 3, when you were 4, even last year? So a lot of healthy data is lost, and that has a bearing to how healthy practitioners also help us. And in Estonia, they have implemented a blockchain-based system for healthcare records, and they're trying to ensure that patients' data is secure, stored, and easily accessible to authorized medical personnel. And this enhances patient care. One, the beauty is that if someone would know all my history since I was born, and that data was available on chain, accessible through the medical professional, trusted, and via proper system, it means that they will be able to help me perfectly, other than in a scenario where they don't have anything about me and they just meet me today. So that's one of the big issue that blockchain solves. Now, applications of AI specifically and blockchain as well are in agriculture. So the AI-driven predictive analytics for crop yields, but also blockchain for supply chain transparency, which I've shared. But I want to share this example because it's Malawian and because we could relate to it. So there is an AI chatbot called Ulangizi by Opportunity International. You could check it. It's online. It's available. I think organizations, they need to do well in terms of how they market these products. And I know of AI Farmer by Arcades because I was part of the launch. And of course, there's another example that is being shared here. At Save the Children, we're using the blockchain. Okay, this is a blockchain example. Amazing. Wow, I didn't know that Shifty is also using blockchain to do some payments, but that's a good use case that we could learn. But anyway, for the AI opportunities, you see that there's Ulangizi for agriculture, Opportunity International implemented that. There's Arcades, which has AI Farmer, and all are trying as much as possible to contextualize agricultural advisory, which is in English, but also in Chichewa, to support farmers so that we cut costs in the extension services, which are costly because you have to send people and so forth and so on. So that's kind of amazing. I see the comment by Crispin Bota, which is amazing. I think I've commented on it that yes, there's so much that is happening in this space, which is a good use case. And blockchain for supply chain transparency in Kenya. Dimitro Technology has partnered with the government to implement a blockchain application aimed at benefiting the agriculture sector, particularly in avocado farmers, by enhancing transparency and efficiency in the supply chain. That's what is happening. The country is exploring this. And I know that there's so much that can be done in Malawi as well. And healthcare, AI can be used to do diagnosis. I think that those examples in Ghana and some other, there was a pilot I spoke to this other colleague, I've forgotten the name, but who's exploring something like this to do AI diagnosis to make sure that people who don't have money to go to the hospital can easily just get a bit of diagnosis before they even go there. And for illnesses that can be treated at home, at least you have a bit of advisory. And blockchain for secure patient data, I've already shared something around that. The financial inclusion. Now, AI could be also used for credit scoring, which is essentially what we don't want because most of us, we don't usually pay back loans. But if your behavior could be checked by AI, which is what is being done in Kenya, well, you could struggle a bit because you'll be seen not to be credit worthy. But that's what you could use. So for small companies, the microcredits companies and even banks that could use AI just to make sure that it simplifies the process. Sometimes you don't have a bad credit history, but you find that the bank is refusing you because it's just one person thinking. But we need to use AI to learn from like historical data, and you could also digitize the supply chain, which I've also explained, and this is happening in Senegal as well. And these are African examples, and some examples around education, where AI-powered learning can also support how we learn. And this is to support us specifically around personalized learning, which is one of the things that we need even in the country. Because we don't have a lot of teachers, because the teacher ratio is quite high, and we want to reduce that. We could build platforms that could work on our syllabus from standard 1 to form 4 and make sure that people can learn at their own pace. Of course, there's disadvantages and opportunities, but at least for people that don't have access to a teacher, access to someone that I can ask questions to, they should. I remember when I was young, I had a very tough teacher, and it was very difficult to ask a question. But AI is coming to solve those kind of things, specifically for those that are in school right now who could just ask these questions. Now information is already available. There's another use case in education, which is a very important one, is blockchain for credentials. Now, blockchain ensures the authenticity of academic qualifications, aiding in employment and further education opportunity. Now, there's so many people out there who are relying on their CVs, and sometimes people are even creating certificates that I have this paper, I have that paper. Blockchain is being used by other organizations to make sure that they can deal with a problem to authenticate the certificates. Well, it's heavy, but this is what is supposed to be done, and we need to explore this area even within the country. And the governance, AI in public service, AI can enhance governance service delivery by providing insights, but also informing targeted intervention. So you could learn from a lot of historical data. And Tony Blair, that's a source there. They work with a lot of governments in Africa and around the world, and you could learn through the AI in public services. And there's also a blockchain for transparency, which is now this is within this same space of governance, where blockchain promotes transparency in public spending and governance, and it combats corruption and enhancing accountability. I don't see Phyllis here, but I'm assuming she'll join and everyone can be able to see my presentation. So I'll proceed for the sake of time. Now, enhancing local industries with AI and blockchain is one of the very important things that we need to start thinking about, because all these technologies, they sound so good on paper, but how do we leverage this within our local industries, whether in Malawi or even within Africa and other emerging markets? Now, the first thing that we could take advantage of is the efficiency. So issues of automation or processes to reduce operation cost, one of the examples that we need to to hold and take advantage of. So there's an example here. AI-driven automation in manufacturing has led to significant reductions in operation cost by streamlining production processes and minimizing human error. And we all know when it comes to production in factories, human error is a very difficult animal. Sometimes you get a product and you're like, oh, it's factory error, something like that. Yes, there is quality control as part of the process, but yeah, you could do better, and industries could do better by taking advantage of AI. So, for instance, AI can applications in predictive maintenance can foresee equipment failure in advance and allowing for timely intervention to reduce the downtime. So, industries could benefit from this, and for emerging markets who want to do a lot of production, this is very, very important. Now, transparency, which is another thing, which is improved trust through immutable records. There's a lot of trust issues, and specifically in this region, Africa, you know that there's a lot of trust issues, right? And the example here is the diamond industry, which could utilize blockchain to track gemstones from the mining to it. Of course, there's a company that is also exploring or doing the same to ensure that there's authenticity, but also ethical sourcing. People are worried, and I'm also worried. Everyone should be worried when we have people dying in the minefields just to source uh, uh, these precious stones. So people want to know, where did this diamond, where this gold coming from, and did someone die, or everyone is okay as part of the process. So yeah, this is what you can also benefit through the immutability of the records that will be captured throughout the process. And later on is the issue of innovation, where new business models and services can emerge. And this is an opportunity for these markets, yeah, in Africa, Malawi in particular, is that we could realize new services that could come through. Now, the rise of decentralized finance, DeFi, which is a different definition that could be explained in more detail, but decentralized finance is now trading or transacting within the blockchain, unlike transacting with a bank. Malawi could be Standard Bank, National Bank, and so forth. So this is the decentralized platform. Um, uh, yes, so the rise of these DeFi, decentralized platforms, are built on blockchain technology, has introduced an innovative financing services such as peer-to-peer lending. So there is a new market right now where there's new value that is through the blockchain and through the coins that are coming through the blockchain, and that you can now have, and you can learn someone. And there's peer-to-peer kind of learning that even happens here through the banking condes and the rest of these things. So there's a peer-to-peer, but also even staking, where you can stake in a particular product. This is a different definition as well. Like it's a whole definition, and you could go deeper in it. But also even yield farming, which is also something within the space of blockchain, which all these disrupts the traditional banking models, offering users greater control over their assets, which is new markets emerging. And it's an opportunity specifically for emerging markets who sometimes struggle with the status quo when it comes to how finance is moved from one point to another. I still can't see Felis. Okay, I see she's coming back, so I'll still continue. Now, let's talk about the potential risks, and I'll move quickly here. So the potential risks and challenges, because yes, great technology, but it also has risks. That's challenges. So what are those? So we have data privacy concerns, and I think everyone thinks about this when we're talking about a blockchain. So the implementation of AI in healthcare, for instance, necessitates strict adherence to data protection regulations. So yes, the GDPR, which is Europe enforced regulation, has to be followed, but also other regulations, specifically in the health sector, have to be followed when you're working with data from people. So yes, it's fun to work with data from people and develop new systems, but you have to think about the privacy, because once there's a data breach, you compromise the whole technology that other people are using, and you push everyone back. Another thing is security threats. So there are a lot of vulnerabilities within the space, and I think with blockchain, every time people think about blockchain, they think about losing money, or maybe they think about gambling essentially. So there are a lot of vulnerabilities that are there in the space, and one of the vulnerabilities is the 2016 vulnerability that happened in the DAO. So as I say, DAO is an acronym for decentralized autonomous organization. This is an organization that you could create, so you could be 10, 20 within the blockchain, and you create your own rules as a government. It's some level for government or something. um, so there was a decentralized autonomous organization on the Ethereum blockchain which was exploited, leading to a significant loss of funds. This has happened several times, and we know of so many examples of how people have lost money within the blockchain. And this happens because there was an incident within the smart contract. So, what is a smart contract? A smart contract is essentially a code that has written instructions of how things have to happen. So you can write a smart contract on how, for instance, information has to move from one end to another end. You can write a smart contract of how you can do supply management, and you can track all the products. So a smart contract is essentially a piece of code that has written commands of what has to happen. So sometimes, because tech blockchain specifically requires a bit of knowledge in terms of what happens in the technology, people don't find, maybe even don't do audits of the code to understand what are the foundation, what is actually written in this smart contract. It's like a contract which you receive, and maybe in that contract they say that they will not pay you at the very end anything like pension or anything, right? So similar with the situation here, people didn't read or didn't understand what was happening within this decentralized autonomous organization, the DAO, and the smart contract was compromised, and people stole money in this process. And there's so many examples. What do you need to do? Do you need to dump blockchain? No, you just need to learn how this is done, and then you move on. That's how everything is done. And the ethical considerations are also one of the issues. Sometimes we know AI is biased. There was an incident with was that a Google or something where their AI was generating when you say maybe generate a man or something, they would generate a man from the West, and then uh, or even if they say okay, generate like an African, then even the imagery was compromised. So there's a lot of biasness, and there's a lot of biasness even when we look at the existing data now. But also there's misuse of blockchain for illicit activities. And yeah, now talking about an example of AI algorithms that have been used. And I think sometimes we wonder, or maybe people wonder, why you have all the right qualifications and you haven't been shortlisted for a particular role. And some companies who are using AI have been cautioned on being biased with their AI algorithms. And this is an interesting area to explore because sometimes there's racial bias, there's biasness in terms of maybe the school that you attended and so forth and so forth. So yeah, these are the things that are the potential risks and challenges. And I'll move very quickly here. I don't know how fast I can move right now, but yes, there's strategies for local businesses. So yes, if we want to take advantage of AI, if we want to benefit through AI and even blockchain, we need to think of a couple of things. The first thing is education and training. We need to upskill the workforce in AI, but also blockchain technologies. I don't think we need to shun away from these technologies. We need to think about how should we connect. And if we're thinking about learning from the global north, which is the West and other countries that are well developed, and we're thinking about how do we now develop as the global south, we need to think about upskilling. So we need to upskill people that are working in IT. You don't have to say, this is what I do, I don't do anything else. You need to learn new things. So learn how AI operates. If you have to learn the languages, then learn new languages, or learn how to navigate through the new frameworks that are available. So for example, public-private partnership are instrumental in navigating the opportunities and challenges presented by AI. So intensifying their focus on reskilling and upskilling initiatives, offering training from trusted institutions, and embracing AI-enhanced learning experiences can maximize the remarkable potential of AI in our society and the broader world. There's so much you can benefit. All we need is to learn new things. Be open to learn. Don't say we can't do this. This is not us. Learn new things. The other thing is about collaboration. Let's collaborate. We need to partner with tech firms and startups to learn what is happening. And there's an example here of UNICEF Venture Fund in collaboration with Giga, who are investing in 100,000 US dollars equity free investment, specifically in cryptocurrency, to provide early stage, specifically the seed level of the startup framework to finance and mentoring for profit technologies startups. There is this opportunity we could take advantage of, but also pilot projects. We need to start piloting projects. We don't just get from zero to become something bigger. It doesn't work like that. And sometimes the African mentality, I don't know if I have to blame it on the African mentality, but sometimes we are not flexible to learn new things, and we're not even flexible to start. And we want to get to a level where we are so big in the technology without starting with the baby steps. So we need to think about how to start small and learn from those mistakes and build our own products. So now that, yes, we have ChatGPT, let's build our own models from Malawi, from even these emerging countries, Africa, Senegal, Kenya, and whatever. Let's build our own models that can do things, that can understand our data more, other than maybe the off-the-shelf models that are available right now. Finding dynamics, there's a lot of opportunities within the global south. So if we're thinking about benefiting, because my presentation is centering around from poverty to prosperity. That's why I'm sharing these opportunities. There's a lot of opportunity, and the first one is the one that I shared with the UNICEF one, the venture fund, which is available 100K. So usually available, I don't know if it's all year, but there's so many opportunities with Cardano, for instance, and other platforms that are available online. So yes, I want to move quickly here, but there's so much. Yes, maybe let me talk about the investment opportunities. So we need to think about investment in these platforms. So think about what you can do with AI right now. Find some developer friend or just learn from these platforms and just find what are the entry points. For instance, entry points specifically in blockchain will be around DeFi, decentralized finance. You could explore what you can do with decentralized finance with the coins that are available. Check the coins that are quite trusted, and so forth and so on. But also gaming. Gaming is doing well. There's a lot of money in gaming. We don't explore that. But yeah, I see there's some activity in Blanda, for instance, people that are working in gaming centers and so forth. But we need to now see how we go up within the blockchain and do a lot of gaming and sell assets and so forth and so on. The way it happens within the games, where you have to unlock a particular stage through maybe points and whatever. You can also earn that through tokens within the blockchain. And this is happening a lot within the global north. And we can learn. And these are the opportunities. Scaling innovations, we need to think about scaling innovations and how can we scale. We need to think about infrastructure. So think about how you can move your products, AI products. So there are new apps that are coming through. These are AI and blockchain enabled apps. So there is a company called Fetch AI, which has like a platform that provides that supports these apps, and they're called dApps, right? So you could explore how this works. It's very important to learn how these apps are coming. So right now we know about Google apps, but also even the iPhone app space where we could be able to develop our stuff. But there are new apps. These are emerging markets we need to explore. And the regulatory compliance issues, we need to think about it, think about what is happening, the opportunities that are there. And on regulatory, we need to think about how we can invest in these spaces to make sure that policy is right and is also supporting the private sector specifically. And then the market expansion, there's a lot of new markets and customers that are there. So instead of fighting for the clients that are within this space or even these markets that are already saturated by other big players, artificial intelligence and blockchain provides you an opportunity now to trade within the global space. And there are few people that are entering in, you be one of the few, and you get a lot of opportunities. And there's so many emerging markets that you can take advantage of, and most of them will even come from Africa. Now, as I go to a close, what are the economic development opportunities for 2025 and beyond? And I think in embracing AI and blockchain, Malawi and other countries can, one, create employment opportunities. So the tech sector's growth generate jobs and reduce unemployment and poverty. We need to think about new jobs. So sometimes we're always thinking about, okay, people who can just move one product from one place to another. Yes, that's good. That still works. The blue collar space is still working, but there's so many new emerging markets. If you go back in history, you'll find that some jobs are not here, and some skills are not relevant. We don't have to be stuck. And if we're thinking about creating new jobs, we need to think about creating new industries. And these are new industries, AI industry, the blockchain industry, and so forth, that will create we need new skills, we need new people, and that's new jobs. So a lot of opportunity in that space. And even if we think about development, we need to think about how AI attracts new investment. So there are technological advancements in these markets, and there are a lot of investors right now. If you're building a startup, if you are building a product, you cannot build it without any component of AI somewhere. There has to be some AI thing. So our product has an AI enabled, is it AI enabled, and it does XYZ. If you don't have that, you don't get the funding these days. These angel investors, these funders, the VC firms, they're always focusing right now on the AI kind of products, but also focusing on blockchain, how we're using blockchain, how we're using AI. And they'll ask you that question. So there's a lot of opportunities in terms of investment. So if we're thinking about building new products, if we're thinking about development, we need to think about how can we get investment coming in. Right now, we just think about investment for agriculture. Yes, it's good. Investment for this. Yes, it's good. But there's so much money that's being made in this space that we don't take advantage of. And lastly, is about enhancing global competitiveness. Now, we need to know that the world does not operate on pity. So yes, much as we countries within this space, we write these proposals and we're looking for opportunities, but we need to know that we need to join the marketplace if we are to be competitive, and we have to be an equal player in that marketplace. And you can only do that if you provide value. If you come in and you provide value, and other players will pay you for the value and not out of pity. And this is one of the things that we forget, specifically when we're thinking about developing ourselves, be it a company and be other enterprise that we are running. If we are to take advantage of the opportunities that are available and to be competitive, I say that we want to trade globally. We know we want to do so much globally. We need to think about how to take advantage of artificial intelligence and blockchain, because that will help us to enter in a market that is not saturated and to establish a footprint and be able to thrive. And this is the gospel truth that I wanted to make sure that you understand. And it's very important for us to keep on reflecting this. And thanks to Felice for the opportunity. So yeah, I'm happy to take questions. If they were coming as I was presenting, I'm happy to look at them and respond, but also if some people just want to chip in. Over to you, Felice. Thanks. You're on mute, so I can hear you. Felice, you're mute. I can't hear you. Your mic is muted. Felice, your mic is muted. I don't know if it's only for me, but I can't hear you. And I see that, so I don't have access to the chat, so I could see the questions or anything, or maybe even contributions. Fellas, your connection seems to be, yes, it seems to be off. But yes, maybe while we're waiting for Phyllis to rejoin the conversation, I'll come back to this slide, which is the economic development for 2024, 2025 rather, and beyond. I think there's an opportunity, and I think the turning point of African countries has to be now. And how can we do this? We need to start investing in new markets. We strive so much and work on these saturated markets, and I think
Back.
we need to
I
find a
hope
way
everyone
to.
can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you now.
Yes. So, I mean, I was appreciating your presentation and I was leading to the questions.
Okay.
Unfortunately, that happened, but you were saying something. Maybe I can proceed to the questions, or you can proceed. You can continue your what you were saying. Yes.
All right. So yes, I was
Then I
just
proceed to the
finalizing.
questions. Yes.
Yes, I was just finalizing saying the moment is now for Malawi. The moment is now for Africa for us to rise up and take a opportunity of the emerging markets, the
Yes.
emerging technologies, for us to conquer. It's not conquer in a sense of a fight, but conquer in the sense that we have to establish a footprint in new markets and take advantage of those new markets to now support development of the nations and stuff of that nature. So time is now and there's an opportunity. How can we do that? We need to build networks. We need to build that ecosystem, and we need to start being vigilant and move with passion and build new products and then promote ourselves and so forth and so on. So there's so much opportunity. And yeah, looking forward to the questions. I'm passionate about the subject matter, so I'll keep on and on. So over to you, Phyllis. Hi, Phyllis, can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah. You're back. I mean, yeah, I'm back.
Okay, fine. Yeah, yeah, you can proceed with the questions.
Yes, so I'm gonna start from the first one who came from Moses. He says, are there any AI and blockchain technology solutions locally developed and currently in production?
Okay. So as of now, I know that there are AI products being built. The only change that is there, and I didn't talk about it here, is an issue of compute power. For you to work with AI, you need some specialized computers, specifically if you're running local models. Right now, what is happening is most of us are building on top of existing models. So you were working with, for instance, OpenAI did APIs and just accessing that data and building your own products. And most of the solutions that I know are there. But I know that people are also working on localized data and are working on building new computers, or maybe purchasing new computers that could be able to run local models. There are a lot of initiatives. There is an initiative with the MOBAS. There's a center there. A center, I think, it focuses on AI as well. With this of the lecture, I think her name ends with Tell or something, but they work on a lot of AI solutions, and they're doing a lot of machine learning kind of exploration in that space. So if you want to join a community, I think that's a good community where you could see some AI activities in emotion. But there are so many AI products that are coming from different organizations. Now you talk of the UN, you talk about the other organizations in the space like Arcades. I think I mentioned Arcades, Opportunity International. They're also exploring some AI. But are they working with local models? Are they building bespoke models? Some yes, some not, and just using the existing platforms and then getting the APIs. In terms of blockchain, yes, there's a guy called Great Japis. I don't know if you know him. He built something. Um, uh, was that yeah? He built something like a DeFi platform for Malawi. But there's also Yellow Card in Malawi that also trades in Bitcoin and the rest of these products. So there's some activity within the country that you can explore. Are they building solutions from scratch? I don't think so. I think there's a lot of collaboration in the space, and these skills are not readily available. And I think we could work on skills. And I think I pointed on the need for us to build skills because these areas require skills. So you don't go there out of mercy. Say, okay, this is I'm available. Please help. No, it doesn't work like that. You have to learn something, learn the skills, and be able to develop the products. And I think that's the direction we need to take. But yeah, to answer your question, um, there are some activity happening within the country. Yes, fellas.
All right. Thank you so much. I'm gonna move on to the next question. So the next question was from Steve, who says, "How can we best leverage AI in local offline settings?" Hope you got that.
Okay. Yeah. So the local offline setting requires what I mentioned. We need to build role models, and they
Hello,
have to
can you
sit.
hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you, Phyllis. Can you hear me? Hi, Phyllis. Can you hear me? Let me know if you can hear me so I can proceed to respond to the question. Hello, Phyllis. Okay. I would still respond to the question when she's back. We'll be able to move to the other question. So yes, what we need is to make sure that we have local models, and these local models they need to sit somewhere. So we need to invest in compute, which is high performing computers that could be able to help in terms of processing the data. Um, and for us now to go to offline, it means that we also have to get to gadgets, to think about gadgets that could be able to do that. Gadgets specifically that can load that set of a model. So if it can sit on your phone, for instance, and you can operate while you are offline, which is what most of the new platforms, I think Arcade's AI Farmer is doing something similar. It's possible, but you have to think about the compute power. And if you're thinking about offline, are you thinking about feature phones that don't have access to the internet and so forth? Then that becomes a different ballgame because you need to also think about where that information sits within that feature phone. So technically, does it have a memory? Does it have a reserve where you can have storage of some data, and what kind of data should be maybe shrinked in some way so that it could be available there. So yeah, it's a technically possible, and I think that's the direction that we need to go to because most of our people are not uh, connected. We need to make sure that they're connected through these offline new models. Phyllis, I've responded to the question, so you can go to the next one. Hi, Phyllis, can you hear me? I see Phyllis is not connected. So maybe as we wait, I will I could go back to the presentation just to say a couple of things. Because I think the action points are here for us to keep on reflecting over this. And it's a very important subject to always think about when we are when we are thinking about investing in the future of the country, of our countries, be it Malawi or other African countries. What will the new generation be looking at? Will they be looking at farming in the way that we do? I don't think so. They will need to do a lot of AI-enabled farming. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for us to start exploring that. Anyway, Felice is back. Welcome back, and let me know if there's any question that I can go to.
I hope I'm back for long.
Yes, I hope so. Our connection in
Okay.
Malawi.
It says how
Yeah.
reliable, yeah, how reliable is synthetic data in AI training? Are there any environmental impacts from blockchain? And how can blockchain help protect the environment?
Yeah. I think let me start with the blockchain and environment. Uh, Blockchain and environment is a big subject, but there's something that is happening um, in the space that people are working on. So the new models that are being done, and I think sometimes we we're so tough on these new technologies, but we need to be fair to them because once a new technology is coming in, it is learning. So we help through our feedback. Um, so there's so much that is happening. Mining or blockchain, for instance, has been consuming a lot of energy. And if you are to mine, obviously with our electricities and whatever, it means that you're gonna have a lot of like serious bill in terms of electricity bill. So there are eco-friendly platforms that are coming through. So you need to explore which eco-friendly kind of gadgets, mining platforms that or mining gadgets that you could use. And yeah, if you're thinking about blockchain and the environment, there's so much that you can do. You could leverage blockchain for environment. For instance, you could do carbon trading within the blockchain space, and that could help in terms of immutability and so forth and so on. There's so much resource and a lot of money in the carbon trading space. Um, and if you add that with blockchain, you could do a lot. And there's so much that you can do as well with uh, if you're thinking about environment and you're thinking about waste management, you also do a lot with management of waste through tokenization of processes. And there's so many use cases around that you could take advantage of. You asked the other question around synthetic data. I don't know how you wanted to explain that, but from where I'm sitting, synthetic data is data that is artificially created to mimic real world data. It can be used to replace or supplement real world data or conduct experiments. So, from where I'm sitting, if you want to do experiments, you could on some small models if you're training them, and then you could use real-time data to now actually deploy the actual solution. So there's so much opportunity that you could take advantage of. So yeah, I think I've responded to you, Phyllis. Over to you.
Yes. The
Okay.
next question is, do we have an AI policy in Malawi?
So as far as I know, no. So let me take this opportunity to say there's some work in the pipeline to do an air landscape assessment. I think that will be shared later on within the year. and there's also some work towards AI policy. So countries are coping up, and I think there's some activity that will happen this year, and it's going to be great activities. I don't want to say those activities in detail, but so many organizations that are interested in the space to develop AI products, but also ensure that the government is well prepared through an AI policy and a number of activities that would follow. Phyllis? Can you hear me, Phyllis? I can't hear you. So maybe I could talk more about the policy from the policy environment. I don't want to go deeper in this subject though, because issues of policy are supposed to be discussed by the government. But all I could say is that there's so much policy in the space, and that policy is very powerful, and it could actualize so much. But I think as a country, yes, we require to have like a specialized policy for AI, but also even for blockchain. And there's so much work in the pipeline. I don't want to say those things, but yes, there's so much work in the pipeline when it comes to AI policy, but also blockchain, either strategy or policy. And this year will be a year for such kind of development. Phyllis, any other question available?
Yes, so this is the last question. It says in countries where data face limitations, including compromised quality, how do we ensure that such is not inherently transmitted to AI models, thereby compromising the quality of their outputs?
I love this question. And that's a good way to end, right? I love this question because I asked this question somewhere. I did ask, I learned something, but also I know that data that we have right now sometimes is compromised by human factors. Maybe someone lied, maybe the collection method wasn't right, and so forth and so on. So that compromises even when we want to do policies, when we want to do interventions for organizations, and so forth and so on. That's a big issue. Now comes AI, where people can just request data and believe that data. And if that data that was collected, which was not collected in a proper way, has been fed into AI and becomes gospel truth, what happens? That's a big issue, and that's why we need a regression, specifically to understand how to cross-check this data time and again. We need to cross-check this data time and again so that this data is not compromised data, right? Why am I saying this? I think we are in an age where there'll be so much information coming through from different sources, and the government, but also all the stakeholders that are interested in data, they need to create guardrails that will safeguard the process of data collection. We need to optimize this process in a way that it is not compromised. Because once that data goes to AI, it becomes a very big problem. Because people just say, okay, fine, this data is coming from here, it's believable. We need to find a way to learn from new data sources. So for instance, you could get social media data and so forth and so on, because that's usually people's sentiments, commenting about different things. But we also need to safeguard the sovereignty of data, for instance, data coming from Malawi, data by Malawians, data collected by the NSO. We need to also safeguard who has authority over data when it comes to this data has to go to this AI model. That's why it's very important. And I think countries, they need to create their own models. And to create their own models, they need to create good pipelines of data sources where they collect this data and make sure that that data becomes where other new platforms that are being built from that country are plugging from. So you don't plug from someone who just wake up and say, okay, I have data on agriculture, I have data on health, I have data on this. You need to plug from official sources. There has to be, that's why it's very important for government to be at the forefront of this process. And how do they do that? It's through engagement. It's through policy formulation and then action points, strategies, and so forth. And then you move towards that direction. So there's so much that is already happening. I don't want to talk about them, but I know that that will be part of discussions that will be coming in specifically around data sources when people are discussing about the data policy for Malawi, for instance, or even other emerging markets in Africa. For countries that have already done it, like Rwanda, I know they have dealt with this issue. I remember talking to Rwanda this at the time. This was part of the discussion that data sources are supposed to be guarded, right? Because if we don't guide these data sources that we have right now, we would have a world where data is so compromised. And with the hallucinations that comes through with some of these AI models, we will find ourselves believing new sets of data that are not anywhere close to the reality on the ground. And if we were to change the reality of the situations of most of the emerging countries or market, we need to make sure that we have right data that represents the actual experiences of people. And we can only do that by not being too much excited by just AI and the prompting and everything, by saying, let's make sure that we optimize our processes of collecting this data through all these sections of the society. And then we learn from this data through the AI models. And we need to create, that's what we need to create, localized models that are learning from our data and are so empowered. Over to you, Phyllis. I think I've responded to that
All right,
question.
thank you so much. Yes, and that was like a very insightful response. And thank you so much for your response. Thank you so much for tackling all the questions. And that was the last question. So now we've come to a close. We're a bit over the time that we set initially, but I want to thank you so much for being my first guest of 2025 and being a very good one. Thank you for your patience. The network is terrible. And thank you for everyone else's patience as well, everyone who's watching. This has been very informative, and I hope that everyone who did not know about blockchain or AI and how it's being applied to Malawi got something from this session. If you have any questions, you can proceed to ask them in the comment sections. You can reach me on LinkedIn, Twitter, ask me any questions concerning this, or if you have any questions that I have to ask McDonald. But yeah, that was a great session. I'm going to end it here because the network will do its things. So, yeah, thank you so much for joining, and thank you so much for a very insightful session, McDonald. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. And you have a great day. Bye bye.
All right, goodbye.